This is a CC Radio podcast.
It was just the most massive thing I've ever seen. To tell you the honest truth, I thought, well, we're the only ones left on this planet. Something's happened. We've missed something here.
The fear that went in me when I seen it was just like the feeling. I'd say it was fear, but I've never felt that feeling before in my entire life.
It's a weird feeling, like you can't explain it when you don't know. You feel like you're being followed, but you don't know what it is.
We had two to our right, another one in front of us, another one to the left, and another one just across the road, shaking the daylight out of the tree. All we get was a big red eye.
I remember waking up and looking at the end of the bed, and there was a figure there, almost insect-like, and then I blacked out.
Welcome to the show, everyone. You are listening to Believe, Paranormal and UFO Radio. My name is Cade Moyer, and thanks for tuning in. If you've had an encounter, get in touch with me. My email address is believe@ccradio.com.au, or you can message me on Facebook at facebook.com/Believe UFO Radio. If you enjoy this episode, there are a few things you can do to help the show. Firstly, you can go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and review, or you can share the show around social media with your friends and family, and that will help us grow. Tonight I'm joined by Aaron, and Aaron had a UFO encounter just north of Sydney. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on, mate, because I always love it when people come on with a UFO encounter, because no two encounters are the same, except tonight's episode might be breaking that rule. Are you able to tell us why this might be the case?
Yeah, so I stumbled across your podcast. I was doing some lengthy drives to work, a couple of hours each way, and hadn't really kind of adopted or got into podcasts heavily, but thought I'll listen to a UFO story. I found yours, and the second one I think I listened to that day was by Attila, and he talked about seeing orange lights over the northern beaches of Sydney. And it was at that point I went, wow, because I'd seen a similar orange light over Sydney, or particularly over Newport. That was in the early 90s. And then I saw another 5, kind of late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere around there. Again, out over DY off the beach there. So, yeah, once I saw or heard his description, I had to get in touch.
And it's the first time this has ever happened on the show, because we've had people who have had, multiple encounters of, UFOs and yowies and ghosts and things like that. But
yep.
It's the first time we've actually ever had someone on the show encounter something in that same area.
Yeah,
and
cool.
Roughly in that same period of time, because for those who don't know, I believe his episode was season 4, episode 10.
Yes.
And he said there was almost an influx of UFO sightings around that area. And by the sounds of it, you have been caught in, I guess, the crossfire of all that.
Yeah, definitely. I heard him say that as well. And I do remember, and I'm not sure whether it was soon after my incident or later in the piece, but there was a lady who lived at Coleroy, which has a really good view out over the sea there. It's on the top of an escarpment, or on the plateau, Coleroy Plateau. And there was a newspaper article that she'd seen orange lights in the local rag, the Manly Daily, as well. So just the timing, I don't remember too clearly, but it definitely was, she was definitely one of the people. But I think he went on to say a bit more about her in his piece as well. So, a lot of people saw them around that time.
It goes to show that this is happening all over the place, and for it to be so concentrated in that one area, I find that to be absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, for sure.
So, are you able to tell us about the encounters that you've actually had on that little bit of, I don't know if it's a little bit of a stretch of road, but that stretch of road along the beach there?
Yeah, sure. So it was late night. Would have been. Well, I remember I've committed the actual date to memory, so it was the 5th of November in 1993. It was just probably 10 to midnight. I was walking with my girlfriend at the time down to the bus stop, and so we'd given it 10 to 15 minutes to get down there. as we were walking, so we're heading pretty much due east towards the ocean. And a common thing you see when you live in Sydney, or particularly up on the beaches there, at night time you see a lot of the plane traffic coming into land at Sydney Airport, which is further south. And you do get to see the headlights of the planes, and they're always very bright and white. And before too long, you start to see them split and become two individual headlights as they get closer to landing. So so walking along, I was looking out to my right, which was south. It was a clear night that night, and I see an orange pair of headlight, or an orange headlight, I thought it was, coming, like they all do, heading kind of facing north or at us. So I kept my eye on it. Just the main thing that got me curious was the colour, having not seen any orange headlights to begin with or before. So we kept watching it and walking, and we were talking as we were getting on. We had probably a 10-minute walk ahead of us. So I noticed it was getting closer, and I was about the point I was thinking, this should be splitting into two by now, based on its size. And it didn't. It kept coming. Now, the street we were walking down was lined with a lot of gum trees, and they're kind of patchy. They've got a few sticks and a bit of kind of patchy foliage, and it's getting much closer now to the point where I'm like, oh, hang on, what is this? And when I looked at it, it looked like it had stopped and just sitting in the sky. So I grabbed Leah and said, hey, come and look at this. And we found a gap in the trees where we could get a clear view of it. And sure enough, it was just sitting there, not moving anymore. And it was at that point we became quite interested and thought, well, what is this? And started going through the list. Can you hear anything? There's no flashing lights. Are you hearing propellers? Any type of, mechanical propulsion? And it was no. So we kept watching it. But it's at that point I was getting not nervous, but just quite intrigued. And we thought, okay, well, let's just sit here and see what it does. After that, well, maybe another 10, 15 seconds, it started to, I call it creep, because it didn't move continuously. It kind of moved. So if you were to have a ruler, say at arm's length, holding it up in the sky, it was moving approximately, the equivalent of 3 to 5 centimetres in through the sky towards us, and then stopping. And then it'd move again and stop, move again and stop, and continued to do that. As we kept walking, we were watching it kind of creeping over the top of us. By this stage, we'd gone up another, say, 50 metres, and we're due to turn right and head down another road to get us into the centre of town where the bus stop was. It continued to creep, and then got to the point where it was directly above our head, and we were on a nice steep hill, so I sat down on the road and we were kind of watching it. It was the creeping bit kind of unnerved my girlfriend at the time. She was going, what is this? And so we sat there and watched it, and it didn't do anything for probably 2 or 3 minutes. Just the orange light sitting there, nothing else to be seen, no movement, no noise. Late night at Newport, being on a beach, you can hear on a gentler night, or that night in particular, it was quite a gentle surf, so you hear that off in the distance, and the odd car going down the highway, but that's about it. So we sat there, and I was actually, once I'd taken the right, was out the front of a mate's house. So I was keen to run in and grab him and say, come and look at this, but A, I didn't know if he was there. B, I'm not sure his parents would have appreciated it too much. So I did, and I sat on the road, and we just sat there and watched it. So Leah was concerned that the bus was coming, and I said, no, it's fine. We'll just get a taxi, or get you a taxi or something if we miss it. But in my mind, it was checkmate. This thing was sitting there, and I wasn't going anywhere. I was going to see how this unfolded. So, it wasn't going to disappear behind a tree line or a skyline of some description. It was right above us, clear as a bell, very orange, not a hard to look at orange or a twinkling orange, just a almost like the glow of an ember, a very kind of deep orange, looked really quite warm. So yeah, and it was big. It wasn't like, I guess it would have been maybe 3 to 5. So using the, ruler at arm's length, maybe 3 to 5 mil. So much bigger than most of the other stars in the sky. But the orange was the most striking thing because it was quite intense. But, not painful to look at and not illuminating or twinkling or anything, just a very solid orange. So we sat there and, like I said, for a good few minutes. There wasn't much else, but I wasn't going. It was simple. It's like, no way, I'm going to see. So it was after a while, it was kind of like, hang on, nothing's happening. Well, no, still going to sit here. And then what it did next was quite hard to explain, but I have got something I can liken it to. So basically around the light was a sphere. It lasted for about 3 seconds. A sphere of swirling green smoke, if that makes sense, but kind of contained to the shape of the sphere. So that's the best way I can describe it. It was there for 3 or 4 seconds, kind of swirling around, then it was gone. It was at that point Leah just went, "Oh, what the fuck was that? Let's get out of here." And I said, no, let's watch. So going back to that kind of swirling effect, it's the closest thing I've seen is, like an old Pink Floyd concert or something like that, where they shoot that flat laser across the crowd and there's the smoke that swirls in it, because the smoke machines are going all night, obviously. It was like that, like a swirling kind of green sphere, and it wasn't blocking out the light. I could still see the orange light inside it, but it was this thing happening around it. And that stopped. That was gone. And then it shot straight up. So from my perspective, it was the size it was, and then it was a pinprick. So my mind has gone, it's just shot straight up into the sky, because it got really small, but still very, very distinct orange. It didn't lose that intensity. Didn't kind of become a white or anything like that. It was still clear. We were locked onto it and had kind of calibrated to it, so we were seeing it very clearly. But yeah, the orange still remained. After that, it's back down. It's come back down to pretty much where it was sitting based on its size. So I didn't think that it was getting big, was shrinking in size. It was more likely to be shooting straight up into the air, but I just didn't have that kind of sight-on perspective. So after that, it had come back down. It went up again, and then it was down, then it went up, and it continued to go through this up and down motion for, maybe seven or 8 more times. And then it shot up very high again, still the little orange prick or little prick of light. And then, we were kind of watching, and I think I said, maybe it's about to nick off, and it just disappeared. It was out of sight. I was a bit bummed, and I thought, wow, that was pretty cool. And we said, no, let's just give it a minute. Let's make sure it doesn't come back. And sure enough, bing, it popped back.
Oh, you're kidding?
Light. No, that's what I thought. I was like, is this thing listening? I don't know. I often ask that, but it popped back for that split second, and then bing, it disappeared again. And then we waited and didn't see it again. And that was the orange light over Newport.
That is an absolutely incredible encounter there, Aaron. That is.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it was a weird one, that's for sure. And for my first one, I've had a few others since, but nothing tops that one. That took a while. That took probably maybe 10, 12 minutes to watch it do all that. From, coming up to creeping, sitting there, green orb around it, and took off kind of thing. So, yeah, really interesting.
So before you saw it this night, were you a believer before that?
Yeah, I was.
This would have been like Christmas Day for you then.
Look, I my mum was quite open to that stuff, and it's not like she was ever, preaching it or anything like that. But she always told us of a UFO her and my father saw. They were quite young, had only been together for a little while. Same thing at Warriewood Headland, which is another beach 3 or 4 down from Newport towards the city. And they were up there on the headland one day and just looking out over the ocean. So they saw an orange one kind of come in from the clouds, fly down towards the water, stop for a few seconds, and then took off kind of in the opposite direction and continued on. And they both just said, "Oh, did you see that?" And they were like, "Yeah, I saw that." So I often heard that story. So yeah, I was definitely liked to think that it was that they were real.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you were seeing this, like, what was going through your mind? Were you thinking, "Wow, I'm 100% seeing a UFO here"?
Yeah. I was ruling out things like internally going, "No, there's no noise." Like I said, no flashing lights, not hearing anything. It's not a chopper. So just kind of tick off those things that it might be mistaken for. But all that was kind of confirmed once it left the way it did, particularly after, going up and down for the short period that it was, and then it completely disappearing out of sight from what appeared to be a very high altitude due to its very small size. So, yeah, it was at that point I said, "Yep, that was a UFO." But the green kind of, it's almost like the way one of the auroras hits the Earth. It's that kind of dancing green. It had that colour to it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It's like a charged particle type reaction. So I don't know. Maybe that was part of the propulsion. Maybe there was some kind of charge thing going on which caused that anomaly before it started, dancing up and down through the sky like it was.
What was going through your head and your partner at the time, her head, when you were seeing this thing, going up and down just above you?
Just curious. Like I said, for me it was checkmate. I was like, "Nah, I've got this thing. I'm not I'm not going anywhere until we see where this goes." So I was quite happy to sit it out. If it was all night, I was going to be there all night. There was no drama. But Leah wasn't as keen, particularly after the green bit, where it kind of freaked her out a little bit. She said, "Did you see that?" And I said, "Yes." Let's keep watching. And she's like, "I want to get out of here." So we didn't. I said, No, let's sit down and we'll keep watching. But yeah, look, I was happy to sit through it, for whatever it took. It's a shame it was before the days of iPhones and portable cameras, regretfully, but I know girlfriend at the time probably had a harder time with it. Being, probably either not having much kind of reference previously through her parents or anything like that. It was probably a bit confronting and real for her.
Yeah, so she probably wasn't as much of a believer as you were in that sense.
No, definitely not. I don't think she was a skeptic, but just probably thought, it's not the sort of thing you see often, and I may never see it, but she got one, so that was good.
Absolutely, and that's a really fantastic encounter, and for you to be able to share that with someone and have them kind of collaborate with you about that, that just kind of really makes it a really, really solid encounter to have.
Yeah, that's right. We actually made the decision as we continued to walk. Said, "Look, let's just keep this one to ourselves. We'll talk about it." And, I said I might tell so and so. He's one of my close mates at the time, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to tell anyone. I might tell my dad." I said, "Yeah, that's a good idea." And I know she did, because he came up maybe 12 months later saying, "Oh, Leah told me about the UFO you saw." It's like, "Yeah, that's right." And, it just kind of, not that I'd forgotten about it, but, life went on. But, yeah, definitely good to have another pair of eyes there and be able to talk through it, because it didn't just happen in an instant. There's definitely a lot of time to sit there and kind of analyse it and kind of take in what was going on, and, like I said, rule out those things that it might be a mistake. What you think you're seeing.
And, that's the best thing to do in a situation like that, because it's so easy to jump on that's a UFO, that light in the sky. And kind of, people can really invent their own encounters, which, there's nothing wrong with that. If people want to do that, that's completely fine.
Yeah.
But, you had a genuine encounter, and that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good one. Definitely.
And now a quick word from our sponsor. Also, are you wanting more content? Why not become a Believe Plus member? You'll get access to exclusive podcasts and episodes that aren't available to the public. Not only that, you'll also get our regular feed without any ads. Head to believepod.com/plus to sign up today for just $5 a month. So you alluded to the fact that you've actually had a couple there. So
Yes.
Do you mind telling me about some of those other ones there, Aaron?
Yeah, so I can tell you about the other 5 lights, the orange ones. So later in the piece, I was doing some night shift as a painter and decorator. I was starting quite late because I was painting a restaurant, so they were open and kind of functioning till late at night. And then I'd go in at about midnight and paint through till 6 or 7 in the morning and get out before the staff came in. So I was heading off to work, and where I lived at the time was out the back of DY, and I was heading again east towards the ocean, and it was pretty kind of clear view of the sky on the road I used to travel down, and I saw going from north to south, or from my left to my right, 5 orange lights, not flying in any particular pattern, but they weren't moving in relation to each other either. They were sitting in that particular position. I watched, they weren't going fast, they were pretty low. It seemed to be out over the ocean. There was a bit of cloud cover around. As I was able to watch them for probably 2-3 Ks of driving, and I thought I'm just going to head down to the beach and see if I can continue to see them. But that was the ultimate plan. But as I got a couple of Ks down the road, they slowly kind of changed angle and started heading up and slowly disappeared up through the clouds. I could see a bit of illumination through the cloud at first, but it obviously got too thick, and then they were out of view. But that was definitely late 90s, early 2000s, probably later in the 90s or closer to the year 2000. So within that time frame that Attila had mentioned as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just about to say that kind of fits the bill for when there was that kind of flood of sightings in that area.
Yeah.
Was that close to the area you had that first encounter?
Yeah, so that suburb, so DY is probably halfway between Newport and the city. It's probably 10 Ks south, the city being about 22 Ks. So DY is, about halfway. So still considered, the Northern Beaches. It's still definitely got a beach and all that sort of stuff down to Manly. So the next big kind of port of call there is Manly, which is probably 2 or 3 suburbs further south again. So it's that right within that area. And Collaroy was just like from Collaroy Plateau. If you're on the southern end of it, you can actually see into DY. So it's pretty much right there.
That's interesting. It's definitely a hot spot, isn't it?
It seemed to be, but I always keep my eyes open and actually spent a lot of time just looking at the night sky and never saw too much. The odd satellite and shooting star and stuff, but I guess it was the unexpected ones that you see when you least expect it.
And what's really fascinating about that encounter is that if they were, let's say they were planes, let's say they were fighter jets or something like that, and you saw 5 of them at that distance, they would be making a lot of racket, because when you see planes coming in off the ocean or anything like that, that sound just bounces back up off the surface of the ocean, and you can hear it pretty clearly.
Yeah, definitely. This was silent again. Being near the beach, all you'd hear is the gentle crashing waves. I didn't hear any noise. I was driving at the time as well, but there was no loud noise associated with nothing that I could hear over the car. But again, solid orange lights, and I knew the orange too. Once I saw them, went, oh, that's them again. So it was that distinct orange colour. But getting a side-on view this time, no orange, no flashing lights or anything like that associated with them either.
I know they were they're obviously a fair bit of distance away, but could you see any shape within the light, or is it just too far away? It was just the light that you could see.
Yeah, it was just the light. Even the first one, there was no shape in the light. It was just a solid orange light or glow.
With that first encounter, do you think it knew you were there?
I often ask this, particularly with the way it left and then came back. Look, it's weird, and it's one of those ones that if I'm telling someone that I think's open to it, I may or may not include. But I have definitely asked myself, did this thing, did it know not what I was thinking, but what I was saying to do what it did? And right before it did its green ball of whatever it was, I think I may have said something like, "Oh, well, what happens next?" And that happened, and and then it went on to do what it did. So, yeah, look, I have thought that, definitely.
It wouldn't surprise me because, I mean, you hear the encounter that Attila had there, and it almost sounded like it was following him. And the encounter you had it's so eerily similar that it wouldn't surprise me if this was doing something similar.
Well, it was sitting right above us, and that's why it's almost like, when I go back to thinking about how it was, heading north, we were walking east, I've got my eyes on it and it stops and then starts creeping through the air till it's right above us, and we've gone up 50 metres and turned a corner and we've both kind of stopped. It's above us and, we're on the ground below it. It sounds like that might be a possibility. I'm not saying yes, but just the whole thing, I do ask that question a lot, whether it was either onto the fact that it was being watched or even maybe having an idea about either what I was thinking or saying. I don't know. It's going out on a limb, but like I said, definitely have asked myself that.
Regardless if you think that or not, how's that make you feel? If it was actually, I guess, following you or tracking you?
I don't know, to be honest. I'm okay with it. I never, I spent a lot of time thinking about it for the couple of days after, but no, I never felt threatened or anything like that. I mean, I don't know if that's even the right word, but like I said, when it was above us and I was sitting on the road, I was like, checkmate, buddy, I've got you. You're not going anywhere. I'm going to see how this unfolds. So, it was good. It was good. Definitely nothing weird associated with it or any weird feelings.
And that's always a good sign. I always ask people, you know, when they have an encounter like this, where they get so involved in the interaction with the object that I always say, pull out the UFO handbook and check, did you have any missing time? Do you have any scars? Do you have anything like that kind of makes you go, ooh, what happened?
True. No missing time because we made it to the bus on time. And no scars. I was able to walk home, and actually took quite a while because I was keeping an eye out for something similar or it again. But no, it didn't. I didn't see it again that night. That's
a good sign then.
yeah. Maybe it was bored and went, oh, here's a guy. Nah.
On to the next one.
We'll move on. Yeah.
So do you still keep an eye out on the sky today? Has it just sparked a fascination with you now?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Always looking, and have seen other things, from glimpses to actually, to quite long sightings as well of lights in the sky. Nothing as spectacular as that, but have seen, little white lights. In fact, my most recent one was outside here a few weeks back, where a white light travelled across the sky. So where I'm now in Queensland, it was kind of heading out east towards Moreton Bay. I was helping my wife hang the washing out, and just looked up at the sky. It was a nice sky, and see a white light, which was a bit bigger than a satellite, but definitely brighter. And inside, the kids are, got my phone doing something. So I said, Jill, look at this. And, no flashing lights again. Went through the list. Any propulsion, any lights, anything else going on. So I ran in and filmed it on my camera. And it was night time, and I definitely picked it up, but the camera was kind of going in and out of focus, and I had to keep touching the screen to get it to lock onto its most, the highest resolution or the best focus it could get. So I was able to scroll through that piece of video, which I'm happy to send to whoever's got some video software and can have a look. But I was able to get a few snippets of when it was most in focus. Probably it's 3 or 4 times, but there's definitely some features which are consistent in each of those photos. I know what it looks like to me. I just showed my wife later. I said, have a look at these photos. And it was a couple of days later, I started Googling online about something similar and found a guy in the UK like 13 or 16 years ago or something that had taken photos of something very similar. And when you put the two photos together, it looks pretty close to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's just my opinion. But happy to share the photos. If, like I said, if someone's got some video editing software or can do something with it, then yeah, I'll give it over easily.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
Yeah.
Look, we can always include those pictures and stuff with your episode on our website. So,
oh yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
if you want, you can always shoot those over, and we can definitely include those, because I know people always like to have a bit of a visual connection to the stories that are told on the show here. So that would be fantastic if you could do that.
Yep, done.
So before we wrap up there tonight, Aaron, I have to ask you. You've had one of the most incredible experiences I've heard with a UFO, and you're constantly seeing them now throughout your life. Do you feel like
Yes.
you're starting to become a little bit more sensitive to them, or do you think that now that you've seen that one, you're just actively keeping an eye out for them?
No, I'm not going to say it's like the thing that I can see at will, but there's just times when I know to look. I don't know. It's hard to explain. There's times when I think I should be looking. And, 3 out of those 5 times I'll see something. That's probably the best way to describe it.
And that's not the weirdest thing I've ever heard when it comes to this stuff, because I've had a gentleman on the show before, and there's a documentary made about him. It's Australian Skies too. His name's Liam, and he basically said the same thing to me, is that he just has a feeling that he needs to go outside and look, and there will be a UFO there. So
okay,
it's if you that's maybe a documentary worth checking out for yourself.
Yeah, I'll have a look at that one. Yeah, for sure.
It might open up like Pandora's box for you, but it might give you a couple of answers too, because if if you are feeling things like that, that might just point you in the right direction to maybe get some answers for some questions that you may have.
Yeah, I'll check it out. See if I can dig it up somewhere.
Oh, mate, it's absolutely everywhere. It's
cool.
It's really great. Amazon Prime's the best place to get that. That's a free ad for them. They're good guys over there. They're really good.
Cool. Yeah, cool.
But what do you think these are? What do you think these UFOs are?
In this day and age, I don't know. It might even be us. I'm not sure. Like I could go either way. I could easily say yes, it's extraterrestrial in origin. Then another part, I could easily believe that it's us. Using the technology that we obtain through source of crashes. That have been well documented over the years, like Roswell and stuff. Maybe it's us flying them now. And then I guess even the more far out stories is it's once you're talking timelines and all this sort of thing. Is it something else? Is it us from the future? Yeah, there's even theories and ideas like that floating around out there as well. So I don't know. I could believe either of those stories.
And that's the great thing about this, is that there's no wrong answer there, because at the end of the day, no one knows right now.
Yeah,
it's all speculation. It's all guess. It's all personal experiences. So I think whatever you think relates best to you is probably the right answer for you right now.
Yeah, I reckon so. Yeah.
Well, Aaron, I want to thank you for coming on the show, because I have to tell you, I'm genuinely jealous of that UFO encounter that you had on the beach there. That's you hear of some spooky ones, you hear of some ones that kind of leave people a little bit rattled and shaken, but you stepped up to the plate and you wanted to hang around. I dig that.
Oh, like I said, it had nowhere to go. It couldn't run. I was watching. So no, it's all good. It was a pleasure to be on.
And that's going to do it for tonight. And remember, if you have had an encounter, get in touch with me. My email address is believe@ccradio.com.au, or you can message me on Facebook, and that's facebook.com/Believe UFO Radio. Until next time, stay safe, and you've been listening to Believe Australian Paranormal and UFO Radio.